Welcome back. We're ready for our last of the week 4 videos. In fact, this is the last of the Old Testament videos. Do you know this book, Profiles in Courage? Don't you like this tiny little edition? This is way back when I was in elementary school. John F. Kennedy wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. It was a short study of a number of political leaders who had shown remarkable courage in different ways. It's a great little book. I encourage you to read it. Profiles in Courage, you could call that the people we're looking at in this unit. They have unbounded courage, and we're going to focus especially on this wonderful pair, Elijah and Elisha. By the way, they're a great example, of course, of it's not the first, it's the second that counts, because the miracles, the courage, what they do just accelerates as they go along. And then at the very end, we're going to end with Daniel. But they are all profiles in courage, unbounded courage. Well, let's start with our man, Elijah and Elisha. Elijah and Elisha are in a difficult time. It is a time of conflict surrounding the people of Israel and the worst of the kings and queens that they're ever going to face. And yet, in the middle of that, they're not alone, and God has certainly not left them alone. They do remarkable things. It starts with the drought. Now, the drought hits, and we're looking at Elijah, 1 Kings chapter 17. A drought has hit, and it's patient relationship. You know, you might expect that God is going to somehow deliver Elijah from the drought along with the widow, and he would do it in some way. How about, I don't know, manna from heaven? How about enormous quantity all at once that's going to ensure them right through the drought? It's not that, is it? It's patient relationship. This kind widow shares her last meal, literally, with Elijah, and with that, it never ends. And so they live, even though all around them there's drought and there's difficulty. These two are well, but it doesn't stay that way. And there is a bend in the river. I don't think any of us saw the bend in the river. That is, that the little boy of the widow dies. Oh my gosh. God's taken all this effort to feed Elijah, the widow, and the boy throughout this drought. Who of us said, oh yeah, and I can see the little guy is going to die. But Elijah, now here's a man who won't take no for an answer. Here's a man who sees joy in the morning, and he insists immediately that this boy is not going to die, he's going to live. It's a great scene, and it just pulls together so many of our themes here as joy comes in the morning. And God does do a miracle. It's the instant perfection of death to life that we were maybe expecting all along. Well, that's the quiet life, and now it's time for greatness to look like greatness. That's chapter 17. Let's go to chapter 18, 1 Kings. The contest with the prophets of Baal. I don't know how you could get a better, more dramatic moment of greatness looking like greatness than Elijah, one, all alone, versus 450 prophets of Baal, and the winner takes all. And the contest is pure fire from heaven. You call on your God, I'll call on mine. The God that answers with fire, he is God. That's the deal Elijah puts in front of them. And they take it. I mean, well, how could they not? What's he going to say to them if they don't take up this idea? And Elijah lets them go. Isn't it a great scene? He lets them go all day. He mocks them. They fail. He increases the difficulty for himself, pours water over the sacrifice, and the fire comes. Greatness looks like greatness. What do you expect after that? I don't think any of us saw the fall that's coming, though. The very next chapter is Jezebel, the wicked queen, getting the news of what happened, and she vows that Elijah's going to die. Well, what's that going to be to Elijah? He's just faced 450 prophets on the mountain, but it seems to unhinge him. And Elijah goes out into the desert, and he says to God, I quit. I'm done. It's too much. I'm all alone. Patient relationship. The very God who just answered with fire from heaven gives Elijah 40 days. He feeds him, and I'm sure he listens to him over and over again. The message is always the same. I'm the only one left. Nobody is here. Take me now. I'm done. And after it all, God says, listen, go up on the mountain and I will meet you. But God doesn't come in earthquake or wind or fire, but he comes in a still small voice. And he sends Elijah back out to do the job that he's got for him, patient relationship. Oh, and by the way, he reminds him, you're not the only one. There's 7,000 just like you. What a great balance. So that's our man Elijah. He's heading out. You know, if there is just one, given the success of Elijah, we might not have expected another one. But as I said, this is a great experience of it's not the first, the second that counts. And so as good as Elijah is, here comes Elisha. And Elisha, just in case we didn't get it, that the second is one that counts, Elisha is the one who gets a double measure of the spirit of Elijah, and off he goes. So Elijah goes up into heaven, never dies, goes into heaven with the angels and the chariots of fire, and Elisha now begins his miracles. Well, there's so many. I personally love chapter 4, the widow's oil. It seems to me here's a case of God curing with the illness itself. Think about it. The widow has nothing. She's about to see her son sold because of the debts they've accumulated. In their house, nothing. A little bit of oil left in a jar, but otherwise nothing. What's the answer? Well, the answer is more nothing. Elisha, tells her to tell the boys, go and gather from the neighbors all the empty jars they can get. Not all the jars filled with oil that they can spare. All the empty jars that they can get. And then begin pouring from that little bit of oil they have to fill all the jars. Gather not a few. As many jars as they gathered, that many were filled. Isn't this a perfect God answers with the illness itself? The emptiness is the problem. And more emptiness, more empty jars, that's the solution. It's a great miracle. There are so many others that go on. Our man Elisha carries on and does them again and again and again. And so celebrate, enjoy. We'll have questions about that. Elisha leads us finally to Daniel. Daniel's going to be our last stop on the Old Testament journey. I know we've left so many other great people and books out, but we simply don't have the time. But let's stop on our last stop here with Daniel. You know, Daniel and his companions, they're in Babylon, and this is prior to the return back from Babylon to Jerusalem. These are men who are exiles, and yet they've made a home in a strange land. And they've also realized that God has come with them. You know, we've seen this before. David was able to make that transfer, that God who delivered him from the lion and the bear will deliver him now, new place, from this Philistine, that is Goliath. Daniel and his companions make the same sort of transfer. The God who is with them, who is their God, was not just in Jerusalem, but is also with them here in Babylon. And they're not afraid, because the same promise God has always made from Moses on, I'm with you, they know it's true. So here they are. These men have come and expected to see God even in this strange place. Well, we start off with the men in the fiery furnace. What a great moment it is. These three men will not bow down. They will not give worship to anyone else but God. And so they're thrown into the fiery furnace. What happens? 3 becomes 4. They had said already to the king, God can save us. But if he doesn't, we'll never serve another. You got to love the balance in their answer. We know what God can do. And if he does, for instance, instant perfection of a miracle, well and good. But you know what? If that doesn't happen, patient relationship, we have a relationship with God that's never going to end. And 3 are found to become now 4. And God becomes Emmanuel. That is, God with us. They're in the fire. Wow, what a scene. That's 3 men, no 4 in the fiery furnace. That leads us to Daniel. Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel, again, refuses to worship others, puts himself in harm's way, openly prays in a window. Others see it. They report him. He's thrown into the lion's den. No problem. The king, after a restless night, comes out and finds him unharmed. Isn't that a marvelous picture? Daniel standing among the lions. I'm hoping you're going all the way back up the contextual river. If this is our last stop, Daniel in the lion's den, safe and at peace in this pit with the beasts, go back. Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. They're in a garden, not a pit, but surrounded by lions and bears and every other creature perfectly well and safe. We come a long way from Adam and Eve. We come a long way from the garden. Things are not perfect and peaceful. But you know what? God still has his ability over his creation to protect his people and to be with them. And Daniel's a great experience of that. And so there's the miracles that we've seen in the Old Testament. Some great ones that I hope bring together for you many of these wonderful themes. They are, well, yeah, Profiles in Courage. This is a great book. It's got great stories about American leaders and political courage, but we've got even better ones to read when we've got Elijah, Elisha, Daniel, and the others. This ends our journey through the Old Testament. Thank you for taking these weeks together with me. And now we're ready to begin the New Testament.